runs in.
Got back to your routines. That's what. It doesn't matter how off track you get, as long as you jump right back in, you will be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So we got back in our routine. I had a busy week, and we're, now we got a couple more weeks before Christmas. So we just got to make sure we
Just keep plugging along.
keep staying with it. And last week we talked about obviously eating, being conscious of your eating, which we'll recap here in a second. But today we're going to talk about something really important as we get into this time of year. Now we're in December.
Especially this time of year.
We're talking about vitamin D and how important it is for our bodies in general, which we're going to discuss today. But hopefully, because we're not going to be outside as much and all those things that come with it.
Yeah, and it's something that critically, I just don't understand why doctors aren't talking about it, why more health professionals are not touting this. I don't understand. But it's one of the things that we can actually get it for free, technically, depending on where you're at. But this time of year, that's not the case. So that's why we want to make sure that it's still in the forefront, that we're going to go over. They're finding out more and more of how intricate vitamin D is to critical functions throughout our bodies. So,
yeah. So today we'll go into stuff here again, the benefits of the old vitamin D. As we say each week, this is not medical advice. Please do your own research. We're just sharing with you guys the stuff that we do because we're passionate about it, especially this one here with her science background.
But always look at there's tons of studies out there. Don't take studies are only as good as their methods. You have to dig and do a little research, and then you have to consult your doctor anytime you change anything or you want to do anything. Always. Now, are they going to be up on everything?
Probably not.
I've found that out that's not the case. Not to say anything against them because they're overworked. That's just how our system is. We don't have healthcare. We have sick care. And that's how they've designed it, So always do your research to your best of your ability. Don't take anything that anybody says as, the gospel or whatever, Do with what you can, do the research or whatever. This is what I exhaustively research a lot of stuff, but I'm not, a medical professional, researcher, all these things, expert in any of this stuff. But you can parse through and kind of look at this, and you can kind of look at the evidence and see and make educated choices. But we don't want to be making, these are not choices we're asking you to make. This is just what we do, what we found out with the stuff that we researched.
Right. And again, you can do this, and I will do this. This is why we have this group, so we can all be together, have that community aspect. And as the world gets more insane, we're going to need it even more. So again, today we're talking about the benefits of the old vitamin D here and what you need to know. Again, based on the research that we have done, so you can consult with your doctor. Last week, just a quick recap. Remember, it's only 3 days. One's already gone. Make sure you hydrate. You start the day off with a healthy breakfast. Lots of protein, lots and lots of protein.
If you always start with your protein first, protein and veggies first, you're going to be okay with the other stuff that you eat.
Yeah, and take a walk after you eat a big meal, whether it's the holiday or just going to the holiday parties now. And then don't as much concern yourself with weight loss. Just look at on maintaining, but just be conscious and use common sense as we go through the season here, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not a free-for-all.
Exactly.
Try not to let it be a free-for-all.
Yeah. So again, we're going to talk about vitamin D. Now, this is the key thing that you'll find this everywhere, but 70% of the population here in the U.S. is insufficient. Think about that.
So they do not have adequate levels. That's a little different than being deficient, but they have low levels of vitamin D. Now, we're going to go over how many things vitamin D does for us. You've probably heard of a few of these, but there's a lot that it does, a lot more they're finding out. It's more than just a vitamin is what they're finding out. But 70% are inefficient. But the real kicker is that 41% of our population is deficient in this, deficient to the point where you could have adverse health issues. So that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And we know that vitamin D plays a role in your immunity, right? So if you are deficient, this is why people get sick in the wintertime. This is why they're, purporting to.
There's a lot of other factors, but
correct, of course.
This is one of the easiest things that you can take optimize that will improve your health. And like I said, why healthcare professionals are not touting this when we see these numbers. 41%. That's like almost half the population. That's insane.
You can make your own determinations why. It is kind of odd that they don't push this more, or at least talk about the health benefits. Again, that's up to you to be your own advocate, because you control what you know, your health, right?
Exactly.
So that's the one thing. Now, these are different things that'll cause vitamin D to be low.
As we get older, our skin is not, it's not the same. As we know, it looks different. It is different, but it doesn't synthesize vitamin D. Those UVB rays is what synthesizes vitamin D and through our skin.
Right.
So
darker.
That is, as we age, it doesn't synthesize as well. Your skin also, areas, depending on where we, migrated from or whatever, areas that have darker skin, because you were closer to the equator, they needed that pigmentation. Melanin is what kept them safe. Now we have populations moving all over the place. We're not where we started out, way back, tens of thousands of years ago. So that protective mechanism is also protecting and preventing that synthesis that we normally have through our skin to get vitamin D.
Right. Now, the key thing here is, like Patty just said, depends on, where we've migrated individually in our lives. Typically, it's going to be for work or family, right? That's going to be the most common case. So if you're living in a latitude above 35 degrees, forgot to put the degrees in there, but just Chattanooga, Tennessee here in North America.
Literally is like the bottom of the state. But if you look at a latitudinal charts of the United States, it is really only the bottom part, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, these lower southern states that are below that 35 degrees. And they found out that 35 degrees and above, you're not going to get enough penetration from the UVB rays through the atmosphere to be able to get the amount of vitamin D that you need naturally from the sun. They found that obesity, for whatever reason, we know vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. We know it's stored in our fat cells. It's utilized and converted into an actual hormone, because vitamin D is actually a steroid hormone when it gets converted out from the fat cells. So something with obesity, with the amount of adipose tissue, extra adipose tissue, it kind of disrupts some of that. The exact mechanism, I wasn't there, parsing that out, but that was one of the things they listed as contributing to lower levels of vitamin D.
Right. And then indoor lifestyle, unfortunately, especially in the wintertime. That's
probably the biggest thing, is that we're not outside like we used to be. And if we are outside, we are wearing sunscreen. Now, I'm not saying not to wear sunscreen, but for a certain amount, if you have sunscreen, that does block those rays. You are not going to get, if you're completely covered up, if you have sunscreen on, you're not going to get that synthesis that you need from your skin, from the UVB rays from the sun. So,
yeah, just be conscious of that. We'll talk about that here in a second, but this is the benefits of it. You need your bone health. As we age, we know we start losing bone density.
Yeah, at age 50, we know bone health or whatever, it increases calcium, increases the strength of our bones. We've known that for a long time. Vitamin D is a big part of that. But we're seeing with immunity, it's a huge part. With what wrecked us the last couple of years, we found a common thing, having comorbidities, but also having low levels of vitamin D was another common thread, that all people that had the worst outcomes, that was something they had in common too, because now we know that vitamin D, you have receptors all over your body. It has, it affects your B cells and your T cells. Those are big parts of your immunity. Your B cells or your antibodies that help and your T cells fight off infection. The other one, your B cells do the antibodies to recognize infection. So your body has all these great things that protect us from all the crap that's going around out there, colds, viruses, and all that. We have the stronger your immune system, the stronger that you're able to combat all this. And now we realize that vitamin D has a huge part in that. So that's a big deal. That's what they should be telling everybody. We know now it's not. We've known for a long time, like I said, about our bones, but our immunity is a huge part of it too. They found it increases muscle strength. Now, it was only lower muscle strength, so I'm not quite sure why that is, but what do runners need?
We need strong legs, right?
We need strong legs. So,
yeah,
hey,
a strong lower
vitamin
body.
D is going to help you with your running, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But now they're finding that's
with
why,
recent studies that,
they're talking about because vitamin D is an actual signaling hormone. It actually does a lot of things throughout the body that, they didn't really realize before, but they're finding with, especially breast cancer, colon cancer, and prostate cancer, that not that it's curing, not that it's whatever, but its supplementation is actually helping with outcomes in these type of, cancers.
Right. So it's not curing by any means. It's just going to play an impact, as studies have shown, to help mitigate some of the issues with it. Again, if you're low, that's the whole point, right?
Yeah. They're doing a lot of research with heart issues. Heart disease is still the number one killer out there. It's more your risk factors that it helps with. There's still a lot more research studies that has to be parsed out, but it has been shown to help with the risk factors for cardiovascular disease. So that is definitely a benefit. Type 2 diabetes is another thing that it's shown to improve. When you improve your vitamin D levels, it helps to improve with your glucose tolerance and issues with type 2 diabetes.
Sleep. This is another key one that we've talked about at nauseum, which we will always talk about because it's so important to our overall health.
People, it sets your circadian rhythm. Before we had, where we rose with the sun and we set, went to sleep when the sun went down, when had to, getting that morning sunlight or whatever, getting sunshine or whatever helps us set that circadian rhythm. But it also, to get serotonin, you need to break down tryptophan to make serotonin. You break down serotonin to get melatonin. And what does melatonin do? Is what helps us to sleep at night. Your body starts naturally producing melatonin when it's time to go to sleep. Getting sunlight or getting vitamin D helps that whole process of that happening.
Yeah, and again, we know the benefits from we get a good night's sleep. You just feel so much better in the morning. And if you're fighting anything off, you tend to do that. That's just why when you're sick, they're trying to sleep more to let your body do its work, right?
Absolutely. So that's when it recovers. That's when it adapts. That's when you get your strength. That's when everything happens.
When you're sleeping.
When you're sleeping.
Mental health. Being outside and getting that sunshine always helps our mood. It always does.
It helps our mood, but it's also with anxiety, depression. There's certain mechanisms with serotonin. It's part of it. Vitamin D plays a huge role in the production of serotonin. So there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but it's one of those things that helps it. And you feel better when you're out in the sun. At least I know I do. Seeing it, like I said, increases your mood and has been shown to help mental health issues and disorders. So how do we get it?
Best thing is, this is the best thing about vitamin D is it's free. You can get it for free. Again, this time of year is when you don't get enough of it because the rotation of the earth. We're now wintertime, right?
So it takes 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how close you are to the equator, to get it 3 times a week. But that means it has to be midday sun. So your shadow, if you go by your shadow, it needs to be your height or shorter. We're talking noon. We're talking right in the middle of the day to get the best benefits. But that's only if you're real year round. You have to be below that 35 degrees. So you have to be in the southern part of the hemisphere there. If you're not, you're above between I think I go into that on another slide
yeah, we do. It's a little bit later. It's a little later.
Sorry.
Okay, so
but
food.
That's if you're going to get it from the sun, that's what you need 3 times a week, 10 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Depending on how close.
And again, this time of year, you're typically going to have more clothes on, so your skin is not going to be exposed, which is why we talk about adding some supplementation. But more importantly, you can get it from food, right? If you eat tuna, salmon, cod liver oil, you can take that via supplementation or food. Egg yolk, again, pasture raised eggs is what we talk about.
Your chickens need to be out in the sun.
They need the sunshine.
They need to be foraging like they normally would in their natural habitat. And you can tell the egg yolk it's going to be that dark orange.
And there's a difference. You notice the difference in the color. Difference. Yeah, absolutely. Grass-fed butter, which is why we've talked about that a lot as well.
Kerrygold butter
is the only thing we use. Kerrygold butter.
Love it.
Liver is something I will eat occasionally. She refuses to, but I understand it. The taste is not that great. It's just not good. I have to cut it up into small chunks and then cook it and then put it in the freezer and then just eat it like a little cube. It's the only way I can put it with some yogurt, but that's the way I can do it.
But can't do it.
It's hard to do. It really is. So again, the dietary supplementation, the RDA again recommends 600 to 800. Now we take 5,000.
That's supposed to be a T there, but
yeah. Sorry about that little typo.
Okay, that's what they say. 600 to 800 units. Now, that's barely to remember. The RDA is not optimal doses. It's just what is needed to maintain. That would be what would be needed to maintain if you already have healthy levels or levels of vitamin D that you should have.
As we already talked about, most of the population is already deficient or insufficient.
Deficient. And if this is what you look, the RDA says this is how much I need, you're going to take that.
You're going to maintain.
You're going to maintain your low level. You're not going to increase it to where it needs to be for your optimal level. So this is stuff you have to do with your doctor. We're going to tell you simple blood test. We choose to take 5,000 units a day.
This time of year.
Yep. The upper intake of it, they say, is 4,000. But we know people are dosing higher with it. They're seeing higher. We know higher levels of in your bloodstream is giving you those health benefits, that we're talked about. So,
yeah.
But talk with your doctor about that. If you are going to take the supplement, you need the D3 is the most bioavailable versus D2.
And the other key thing that we would recommend in the supplements, we'll do another whole episode on that, but make sure that it's tested properly because there's a lot of
third-party testing.
Third-party testing is what you want in this, right?
So the easiest is the USP label on it. They do third-party testing.
And I don't have one available. Otherwise, I would show you guys real quick the one that we take. We take Nature Made, but anyway, this is the key thing: is it always goes back to data. Data will tell you so much, right? So you can run a simple test. Again, this is where you're going to talk with your doctor. If they're not running this test, and you need to ask them for this, right?
It's inexpensive. If they say your insurance won't pay for it, I mean, it's a simple. Your doctor should have no problem asking for this test. It's the 25-hydroxy one is the one that you need. And I don't know exactly how much it will charge you, whether your insurance pays for it or not. It's a nominal fee to find out a vital.
Yeah, this is information you're going to want to know.
Everybody should know this
because we already know that the statistically 70% is deficient and 41 or I'm sorry, inefficient, and 41% is deficient. So you need to know where you're at. That data is this test will tell you that. So then you need to know: do I need to eat all these more food?
Then you can work with your doctor. You might need to. They might just prescribe you a high dose, like once a week, to boost to really get that. They can work with you with that stuff. Don't do this on your own.
Yeah.
Find the information, interpret it with your doctor, and see where you need to go. But this is one thing you need to know, because if you're having any issues with anything, I mean, there's, like I said, vitamin D is an actual steroid hormone that affects multiple different areas of our bodies. So it's well worthwhile, I think critical to actually know this number. And like I said, not expensive. Your doctor should absolutely have no problem with Ideally, he's already testing that, he or she.
Hopefully, yeah.
But
a lot of times they're not, though.
But yeah, we found out that that is not the case. I found that out with my sister. She's has autoimmune diseases. Her rheumatologist checked it. I looked at her blood work. They have the portals now. You can see your lab results. They checked it 3 years ago and it was low. Didn't tell her, didn't suggest any supplementation, nothing. When I saw that, I asked, anyway. I was like, what? So she's now on, her doctor finally prescribed a high dose of it, although she did D2 instead of D3. We know, if you have done any research on D supplementation, that D3 is the more bioavailable. I don't know why she chose that, but you know, if you're going to get it over the counter, which most people get it over the counter, D3 is what you want.
Yeah, so, exactly.
And this is what optimal levels. Now they're going to come back. It's going to say that if you're insufficient, it's going to be under 20. Severely deficient, probably I would say it's going to be under 12. It just depends on what guidelines you're going by. But we know that optimally, we don't want to barely survive. We want optimal readings are 40 to 60, and to get those benefits for like the cancer, the autoimmune, and those things, they're saying 60 plus. So work with your doctor if you're having issues, or if you're having something like that. This is definitely something that is worth investigating, worth seeing. If you're at that 30, or if you're at that 30, they're going to say you're totally fine. I would not take that, but that's me. I want mine at optimal. So you find out with the research you do what you think is optimal for you with your doctor. But the RDA is not up to what's optimal. Like I said, the RDA is doing what you barely need, not to have a negative outcome with it. So always keep that in mind.
Right. So again, if you live above 35 degrees from November to April, you're not going to get enough from the sun. That's just the reality of this time of year.
The UVB rays are not going to be strong enough to penetrate the atmosphere to synthesize it with your skin from being out there. It's just not. So get the testing. Take it how you want when you do the research. Whether you want to just start supplementing with it, that's always your choice. But it's always good to ask your doctor first. It'd be good to get the test first, just to find out where you're at, and they can, like I said, help you go from there. But know that you are not going to be able to get it, even if you're outside every day, from November to April. Most of us are not spending all day outside.
Yeah, anyway, so it's irrelevant.
During
so
those
you're going
times,
to need to get it elsewhere.
So you're going to need to get it. And how you do that, like I said, discuss that with your doctor. But unfortunately, the higher up you are,
right? Like our friends in Canada and Northern Europe that are on part of these that are watching all of our stuff.
Yeah, above the 40
degrees, you will not get enough. So you do have to make sure you're conscious of the foods you're eating, as well as potential supplementation. So those are critical things that you need to look at.
But testing.
Yeah, you got to test, and data will always guide the way. Data is always going to be key. Now, factored in this is vitamin K, because it plays a part to this role.
If you start researching this, you start Googling this, you'll start seeing, if you don't take vitamin K with your D, you're going to have a heart attack. There's crazy stuff that you see that come out. Why they say vitamin D, why it's so good for your bones, is because it increases your calcium by like 40%. Now, vitamin K, there's two kinds. K1 is for the blood clotting. Most everyone's fine unless you have some type of blood disorder. You know, you're not just, you get cut, your body's able to clot it. That's how you know your vitamin K1. If you're eating any green leafy vegetables, spinach, stuff like that, you're probably fine. K2 is what they're talking about when they talk about supplementation. And K2 is different forms of K2, but the most bioavailable, just like D3 is more bioavailable in your body than D2. Research has shown that K2, vitamin K2, if you do MK7, is the most bioavailable. If you were going to buy a supplement, you wanted to have the best benefit for the cost. These are low. Luckily,
this is super low cost. Yeah.
So it's not that, but you still want to get, if you're going to take something, go to the expense of taking it, the effort of taking it. You want it to be the best in your body.
Right now. Again, vitamin D is going to raise your calcium levels, as Patty mentioned. But the benefit of K2 then is it tells the body, it becomes a traffic cop. Where does it go?
Yeah, it stays in, it raises it in your periphery, so we don't want it to stay in the blood. K2 just tells it needs to go to the bones, it needs to go to your teeth, it needs to go to these different, tells it where it needs to go instead of staying in the blood. So this is why they say, it's dangerous if you're taking D because of this hypercalcemia. But all the studies I've seen, even the people that are having super high doses of this, high dosing to where their blood level, serum levels of vitamin D is 60, 70, 80, 90. All the people that parsed out, any of the people, it was such a small amount that actually had this hypercalcemia that they tell us to worry about, or that people are worried about when they say about supplementing with this. It still wasn't significant that they needed an intervention.
Right. So basically, it was nothing. Raised it.
It wasn't nothing, but it didn't raise it to where it was. It raised it to not to where they were like, you have to stop this, or we have to intervene, or we have to do something different. So take that as you will. You can get K2 from food. Not the best food, because I don't know if you're of Japanese descent, then you know what natto is, but it's fermented soybeans, and
not as easy to get.
They're
put
slimy.
This way.
Right, you can get it, but they're slimy and pungent. I guess
pungent
is the nice way to say, but
something
gross. Now, if you are Japanese and this is just part of your culture, you're used to eating that. A lot of other cultures eat fermented food. We all should eat fermented food because it's
there's so many benefits.
Bacteria, but we just don't do it in this country that much.
Yeah.
Maybe that. But the good thing is aged cheese. If you like Munster cheese, you can get quite a bit. Remember, for K2, the recommended is, actually they don't parse it out between K1 and K2. They say vitamin K is 90 for women, 120 micrograms for men. So if you're shooting for those numbers and you want to do it with food, this is one that you actually can. It's a little bit harder with vitamin D to get from your food, but it's a little bit easier with K2. Eel, I don't know how many people eat eel. That's definitely not something that is,
but it's an option.
It is an option.
Right.
It does give you a higher dose of that. But what we found, since we eat pasture-raised eggs pretty much every single day, that it's the easiest way to get it. But remember that egg has to be dark orange. Your chickens need to be out roaming, eating bugs, out in the sun, doing what they're supposed to be. Pasture raised, it has to say on the carton, and then check them out. Vital is the one brand that I've checked out extensively. You can get them in all grocery stores or whatever.
Yeah, those are the ones that we bought. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's so worth it. All the benefits that come with it, and you'll notice a difference in the taste as well. So
absolutely.
Anyway, hope you guys found this fun. If you're looking for any guidance on how to get started, because this is so overwhelming, we get it, right? There's so much stuff out there. We're willing to share with you guys the stuff that we do. You'd be shocked, as we've said many times before. It's just some small changes, some small substitutions in your daily nutrition, your daily food intake would get you on the right track if you're off. If you want some help with us customizing your macros, which would be these guidelines, we're offering this. We're going to do this for the month here. Really, anytime. Go to runtips.us/call. You can set up a time with us, and we'll sit down and kind of give you some guidelines to get you started. And the people that we worked with have always been grateful for that little bit of assistance, that little bit of nudge, and just those little bit of substitution changes. You would be shocked, those minor changes, how far it goes, right? So go to runtips.us/call. That's runtips.us/call, and that will get you started.
Or any questions about what we talked about today. If you want to see like the research that I've done, I can share any of that stuff with you. Like I said, there's a lot of information out there, and if you're not used to looking at studies and stuff like that, it can be kind of boring, overwhelming, and just blah. That's why he lets me do it, because he doesn't like to read those. And I get that. But there's a lot of important things out there. There's a lot of studies being done. There's a lot of things that we want to optimize our health. We're runners. We're doing things to, make our bodies strong and healthy. And, we want to be vibrant and, from our, we're in our 50s, but we want to be that way in our 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's like until whenever. So these are the things,
There's no reason we can't, and we will.
But things that we share that I feel like, has helped us optimize our health, we want to share with you. So, but like I said, have any questions or anything like that, you can always
message the page or go to runtips.us/call and set up a time.
Yeah.
So with that, guys, a little bit longer today, but this is a really important topic, and we wanted to share the information. So especially as we're in December, January, again, this time of year, these next few months, it is critical. We all need it.
I believe, like I said, do your own research, talk to your doctor, but get tested, find out what it is, and then go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have a great Saturday, and we will see you again.